Ayin Zion, 77. A, the middle of the page. The last thing we learned was a discussion about wine, the concentration of wine, the ratio, if it's 1 to 3 or 1 to 2 parts water. Now we're learning, it's the middle of the page, slightly above the center. It's Tana. It's taught in a Brisa, Yavish Mikazayas. If you have congealed wine, I never saw this, but the Gemara discusses it, so apparently they had it. Congealed wine. Now, how much congealed wine would be significant if someone carries it on Shabbos, that he did the malacha of carrying? It would need to be a significant amount. So it says a kazayas, which is a little different than most things, most food items in Hilchos Shabbos. Most food items are the size of a fig. This is a kazayas. Div Reb Nassan, that's Reb Nassan's opinion. Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, Reb Nassan v'Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda Amar Davar Echad. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eli's son, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda. So it's like a grandson from Rabbi Akiva, but not biological. Rabbi Yehuda is a student of Rabbi Akiva. This is Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda. Reb Nassan is earlier. Reb Nassan was a friend of Reb Meir, so he was his father's age. This is Rabbi Yossi, his father's age. Now, usually it's Abaya that puts people together. Here it's Abaya's teacher, Rabbi Yosef, that does this. And he says the following, Reb Nassan Hadaman. Reb Nassan, we just said that congealed wine is a kazayas. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda, what does he say? That's exactly the same as Reb Nassan's opinion. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda was taught in a brisa. Rabbi Yehuda says, Shisha Dvarim Mikuli Beis Shammai Mechum Beis Hillel. There's six things where Beis Shammai is lenient and Beis Hillel is machmer. Now Rashi clarifies. He says there's many things where we have, usually Beis Shammai is strict and Beis Hillel is lenient. And there's many exceptions to that. Now, Boi Bayayim, on that day that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was instated in the yeshiva, so everyone came in and gave their testimonies about things that they heard, things that they know. The Masechtas Idias says over there many things that Beis Shammai was more lenient over Beis Hillel. So Rabbi Yehuda is not saying that there's only 6. He says that he has a tradition of these 6 that he's adding to the list that was said over there. Now, one of them is dam nevela, the blood that comes from a carcass, a dead animal. Beis Shammai mitar and Beis Hillel mitam. Beis Shammai says it's tar, and Beis Hillel says it's tamei. Now, Rashi gives options here of how to learn this. The doctor puts up the blood bag. Let's see. It could mean that it's not mitame as a nevela, according to Beis Shammai. Also could mean that it's not considered mashkin. It's not considered a liquid. Rashi says he thinks that it's only referring to nevela, but it still has that tumakala, tumas mashkin, that it could become tame if it touches something. Okay, so what happened here? Dam nevela, Beis Shammai says it's tar, Beis Hillel says it's tame. Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda adds to this. This is adding to his father's statement. Af keshetimu Beis Hillel, even when Beis Hillel says that it's tamei, this blood of a carcass, a dead animal, leitimu ela bedam sheish be'revius. It needs to be a revius. It needs to be a certain amount of blood that would be tamei. See, a dead animal gives off tumah. Here we're saying that just the blood is going to give off tumah. So how much of the actual dead animal would give off tumah? Would be a kazayas. How much of the blood would give off tumah? A revius. And Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda explains, because if it would harden, it would be a kazayas. So what you really have in that liquid is a solid kazayas. And because a solid gives off tumah by a nevela, So when you have a revius, you have a kazayas of a solid potential. And that's what it would convert into.
So is the Gemara learning about the shear from Tameh to import it into the halakha of Shabbos?
No, not exactly. The Gemara is doing is it's giving us a conversion of a liquid to a solid.
I understand, but is it talking about it because it's relevant to Shabbos or just because it's come up?
It's relevant to Shabbos to know the ratio, the conversion ratio of when a liquid turns into a solid. How much liquid would become a solid? How much solid would become a liquid? And then we said, oh, that conversion ratio, I find Rabbi Yehuda has that in Hilchos Tumah. He says over there that the conversion ratio of a revius becomes a kazayas. Revius becomes a kazayas. It's very interesting because that's our shiurim basically in brachas as well. That a revius of liquid and a kazayas of that's when it requires a bracha achrona. So maybe it's like associated. You see, that's the conversion ratio where revius becomes a kazayas when it changes form. What's it called when it changes its state? It's whatever it's called. Okay. So Amar Abaya, student of Rabbi Yosef, and he's the one that actually usually does this. Amar Davar Echad. He responds to Rabbi Yosef Amar Abaya Dilmalahi. It's not 100% that Reb Nosson and Rabbi Yehuda would say the same things. You see, Reb Nosson was talking about wine. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda was talking about blood. There could be a difference there. Adkan lekam Reb Nosson hachad by revius. Over here, where Reb Nosson says that it needs to be a revius, alabiyai in the kalish. I think what he means, it needs to be a kazayas, which a kazayas would turn into, a kazayas of wine would turn into a revius of, a kazayas of dried wine would turn into a revius of wine. So it goes like this. Adkan lekam Reb Nosson hacha, because that it's a kazayas to buy revius, that it needs to become a revius, that's on the biyai the kalish, that's only wine that's thin. Its consistency is thinner. So therefore, a revius, a kazayas, if it would turn into liquid, would become a revius. Aval bedam de samech, but blood that's thicker, loy by revius. I don't need a full revius. In other words, Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda says you need a revius of blood because that would turn into a kazayas. Reb Nosson not necessarily holds that. Reb Nosson would hold that I need a revius of wine, which would equal a kazayas. That's only in by wine where wine is thinner. But it could very possibly be that I need less than a revius of blood, according to Reb Nosson, to be a kazayas of blood, because it's much thicker. So when it converts, when it changes its state from liquid to solid, it doesn't need to be as much. It will do that with less than a revius. So in other words, Rabbi Yosef is saying Reb Nosson and Rabbi Yehuda say the same thing. It's not necessarily so. It could be that Reb Nosson would give, in Rabbi Yehuda's case, less than a revius. His measurement would be less than a revius. Inami, or also, or you can say it the other way. That adkan lekam Rabbi Yehuda hasam de kazaya sagile revius. By the blood, Rabbi Yehuda says, yeah, a kazayas turns into a revius of blood turns into a kazayas. The liquid measurement, a revius, turns into a kazayas of the olive size of a solid. Ela bedam de samach. He only says that by blood, which is thick. It's viscous. Is that it's a thicker. whatever. Aval yayin the kolish, but wine that it's a regular liquid, just a fluid, it's much thinner. Kazayas have mirvius. Kazayas, to get a kazayas, you need even more than a revius to turn it into a kazayas. V'chimapik, pachas mikazayas l'chayev. So therefore, all I need is a revius. So if I take out even less than a kazayas of congealed wine, that would equal a revius. Maybe Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda would be more strict than Reb Nosson when it came to Hilchos Shabbos, and he would tell you that even less than a kazayas you'll be chayav on. Okay. So Rabbi Yosef said that they said the same thing. Abai says it's not necessarily so. Chalav kedei gemia. A very interesting Gemara here. We said, what's the amount of milk that if a person carries it on Shabbos, he's going to be chayiv? So we said the amount that it takes that a person can swallow in one gulp. Ibaylahu, they have a shaila. Kedei gemia. I can't tell you the difference, but probably the Yemenites would say kedei gemia, with the ayin. The question is, how is it spelled? What's the spelling of gemia? Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Hagmieni na ma'at mayim mikadech. Pour me a little bit of water from your jug, which means to let me drink. So we see over there in that pasuk that it's spelled with a aleph. So gemia, our Mishnah spells it with an ayin. Reb Nachman Yitzchak says it's supposed to be spelled with an aleph based on that pasuk. Ibaylo. We have another shaila here. Gar'inen, ay gar'inen. In the spelling, there's a difference here. In the pronunciation, it's very similar. It's the difference between an ayin and an aleph. Is it spelled when it says the seeds are not counted in the shear of how much you need to carry on Shabbos? So you can't include the shells or the seeds. So the question is, how do you spell that word, garinen? Amar Rava barula, benigra meyarkecha. Benigra means you detract, you remove from the value. That means that garinen is removing from the fruit itself. You remove that from the fruit. Okay. And what's the point over here is that vinigra is spelled with a ayin. Iboilu, they have another shaila. Aimamais. Spoke about there's a Gemara Pesachim, but it's talking about the coals that the Kohen Gadol uses on Yom Kippur. It says he takes gechalim aimamais. It says there are gechalim aimamais that spill over. So how do you spell aimamais? Aimamais are the coals that separate. Is it spelled with an aleph? Aimamais or aimamais? Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi arozim loy amamu b'kan alikim. Quotes. This is a pasuk in Yechezkel. It's referring to the kingdom of Asher, Assyria, that says that they're cedar. It calls them cedars. Asher was compared to cedars, Assyria, and it says loy amamu. They weren't dark. They would look strong and bright, even in the garden of Hashem. In other words, that's how strong they were. So you see it spelled with an ayin. Ibaylu, there's another shaila. Ma'amtzin tanan? Ay ma'amtzin. It says that they close the eyes of someone that passed away. Do they close it with they can close it on Shabbos. They can close the eyelids. The question is that spelt with an aleph or is it spelt with an ayin? So Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan, a famous student of Rabbi Yochanan, Reb Chia bar Abba, he says, "Va'otzim einav mirois bara." He closes his eyes. The righteous person closes his eyes from seeing bad. The closing of the eyes here is spelt with an ayin. Otzim einav. Okay, that's our spelling, our grammar course. Taner Rabbanan. Stored in a brisa. Moitzi chalav shel behema kedei gemia. If someone carries out the milk, carries on Shabbos, milk of an animal, how much milk it will make him chayav? So the amount of milk that he can drink in a gulp. Chalav shel isha, beluvin shel beya. Let's say it's woman, it's breast milk, or the white of an egg. How much of that carrying? I guess it was put into a bottle, or the egg white. That's kedei litin b'meshifa shel kila. Maybe I'm supposed to divide this up and you take out the shel kila. Yeah, kila is a new thing. This is the amount that you would put into some sort of ointment that would go on meshifa shel kila is an ointment that would go on the eye. Apparently, breast milk or egg white was good in that ointment, or on that. Maybe it was a patch of some sort. The kilar is this ointment itself. Kedei lashif b'mayim, enough of it that you can mix with water and put on. Rashi says both eyes. Other Rishonim say one eye. But how much of this ointment, carrying it on Shabbos, would be chayiv, the amount that you could use to cover the eyes? So, Boy Ravashi, Kedei Shifa, or Kedei Achisa v'Shifa. Apparently, when you put this on, there's some of it stays on the fingers. So, would you be chayiv if you don't have enough together with what stays on the fingers? And that's because you can't really use it. You technically have enough, but theoretically you have enough, but practically you don't have enough. Theoretically you have enough because this is the amount that needs to cover the eyes, but practically you don't have enough because when you put it on, actually there's some that's stuck on the fingers. The Gemara says take on this. Okay. Dvash. When it comes to the honey, we said kedei litin al kasas, enough to put on to a wound that would be on the animal. From the rubbing of the packages on the animal, it would rub off skin and could cause like a cut. So they would put honey on that to heal that wound. So the amount of honey that you would put on a kasas, that's the amount that's carrying on Shabbos. Tana kedei litin al pi kasas. Was taught the amount that's put onto the opening of that wound. Now, it says P, doesn't necessarily mean the opening, it means on the face of that wound. By Ravashi says, Al kasas apuma de kula kasas, Dilma amur shekama de kasas, lafuke hudrana delay. Question is, do you put it on the whole area, or do you just put it on the opening part of the wound? So the way you would word this is apuma de kula kasas. That would mean over the whole area. Or do you say amor shekama just on the top of the cut, which is the actual opening? Lafuke hudrana. Hudrana must mean the surrounding area. Maybe the swollen area. Maybe that's why it's called hudrana. I don't know. Which you don't put on. And the Gemara says teku. Another question that we don't have an answer for. Okay, we're going to go into some agarata now. Rav Yehuda says the name.
These are all going to be stories that are just tekus, or not stories, cases.
Well, the last two had a teku. Right?
There's going to be tekus too.
Well, the next is going to be a agarata.
Because they always drive me crazy when there's a teku, because then I never know the answer.
I assume in Hilchot Shabbos, teku would mean that we go strict. It gets complicated in Choshen Mishpat when there's a teku, because going strict for one person is lenient for the other person, because they're claiming it to each other. So the teku gets complicated there. But in Hilchot Shabbos, the teku would probably just be strict. Over here, it says the base, that little base is going on the second answer, on the second possibility, which means that you'd be chayiv even for just the amount that covers just the opening of the womb, not if it's the whole thing. Where is it on the first one? That we don't have an answer for. Okay. Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav. Kol ma shebara Kadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai, everything that Hashem created in the world, he didn't create anything for waste, in vain. Everything has its purpose. So even things that are negative, the Marsha explains, but we know what their purpose is. They're there to punish people. But the question is the following, and he's going to explain the purpose for these. Bara Shablo, he created a Shablo, which is a snail, chilazon, lakasis, to put on the wound. Apparently you squish it and you put it on the wound. It's supposed to be healing. There's a famous mashal that says no one should try any medicine from the Gemara, because since the generations have changed and it's possible that it won't work today, you may lose your faith in the sages, because these medicines don't work. And it really has nothing to do with that the medicines don't work. It has to do with us. Our bodies are different. Anyway, basically, don't try it at home. But in those days, a snail was good for a wound. Barazvuv, what are flies for? Litzira, for a wasp, a bite, not a bite, a sting from a wasp. You crush a fly and you put it on it. You put the crushed fly on it, if you can catch it. Yitash, mosquitoes, I guess. Linachash is for a snake bite. Maybe it draws it out, and maybe also you're squishing it up. Binachash, what is a snake? What is that for? Lechafafis, for certain types of rashes or boils. I guess they can use these the snakes to get that. The scientists are very concerned about losing species, endangered species. That's because there's information in each species that can teach us a lot of things. But here, each of these species is a remedy. V'samamis la'akrav. The spider, maybe samamis is a spider, maybe it's a gecko. The Steinsaltz says it's a gecko. What do you do with that? That you use for a scorpion bite. Hechi avidla, how do you do this? Now it's unclear what the Hechi avidla is talking about. Is he talking about the snail, or is he talking about the gecko and the spider? Which one of these is referring to? Anyway, that's the question. Hechi avidla, how do you do this? Yeah, it's a different girsa. You take a black one and a white one. Vishalkila, you boil it up. Vishaifila, and you spread it on the wound. So that's going to be the healing remedy. So in other words, everything here, everything has a purpose, even these things that seem to have no purpose. Tana Rabbanan was taught in the Brisa, Chamisha Eimesein, Eimas Chalash Ala Gibar. There's 5 fears. Fear as in dread, awe, fear, afraid. And this is the type of fear that something strong has the fear of something, has fear from something that's even weaker than it. Just surprising. Usually if you're stronger, you don't fear the weak. But here there's certain cases where you do. Eimas mafkia lari. We start off on the wrong foot over here. We don't know what mafkia means. But it's, say 5, Eimas mafkia lari, the fear of a mafkia on a lion. It's some small creature that has a very loud voice. And the lion is afraid that it's much larger than it is. The Steinsaltz gives a suggestion that it's a striped polecat. And he says, or it's known as a zorilla. And it's possible that there's a whole pack of lions that will wait while this creature partakes of the prey. That's what he says. Okay, whatever the mafkia is. Emas yita shalapil. This is, I think, more well known. I think the elephant is afraid of things. They go into its nose and they bite it.
I thought that was a myth.
What is that?
I thought that was a myth about the mouse to the elephant.
Right. That it gets stuck in its nose and its trunk. So here Rashi actually says it goes into the nose. He calls it, the trunk. The fear of the spider on the scorpion, or we said samamas could also mean a gecko, but here it makes more sense if it's a spider. Rashi says also it goes inside its ear. Emas senunis ala nesher. Senunis is a small bird, a swallow. And the nesher is the eagle. What is he afraid of? He gets he blocks him from opening his wings. Emas kilbis al levyasan. Kilbis is a small creature that the levyasan, this large fish, is afraid of him. Rashi says also it goes inside its ear. There are usually these fish that go around these big whales and sharks, and they eat these. They clean them, and but I thought that was they enjoyed each other, symbiotic. They helped each other over there. Anyway, this is something that he's afraid of. Rav Yudah Marav Mikra. Where do you see this from? Hamalvig. What's the pasuk that says this? Hamalvig should al ois, that he raises up the downtrodden over the strong one. Actually says shadud, which is the downtrodden, on the strong one. So he raises him up that the strong one should be afraid of him. Okay, now we have another story. It's either Amar Rab Zera or Rab Zera Ashkach Rab Yehuda. Rab Zera saw Rab Yehuda that he was standing at the house of his father-in-law. I don't know who that is, but he sees that he's very happy. You can ask him anything. Now's a good chance to ask. We would say now it's a good time to ask for a raise, but he was going to ask something intelligent. Amalei, he asks, my time easy maskan bereisha. V'hadar imri. He asks, Reb Zera asks Rabbi, he's very happy. He says, let me ask all these questions. He says, how come goats always walk in front of the sheep? Amalei, kibriyasi shalaylam. Oh, it's just like the world. It's the bereisha chashucha v'hadar nahira. First, we started with darkness, and then it became light. Now, the goats are usually dark, and the sheep are usually white. So it was first dark and then it was light. So the goats go in the front. The Marsha puts this in historical context. He's asking how come the Greeks ruled during the second Beis Hamikdash before the Hashmonaim ruled. Why did it have to go like that? He says it's the Greeks, Yavan was considered Chayshech. My timer, now he asks, Hani Mechasyan v'Hani Megalyan. Why are the sheep covered over with the tail? The back part is covered with a tail, but the goats don't have a tail. Bahani Megalyan, it's exposed. That area is exposed. So the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda answers, Hani the machsinan minayo, the sheep that we get clothing from, machasyan. So therefore they're clothed as well. They're covered over. But the goats we don't get any clothing from because you don't make really from the goats here wool, so therefore they're exposed. They don't give us clothing. They don't have clothing. It looks like it's their fault. My time a gamla zuter genuvte. Why does a camel, he asks, Reb Zera asks Rabbi Yehuda, how come it has a small tail? Mishum da'achal kisi. Says because it eats thorns. If it had a longer tail, it would get stuck in the thorns. My time at Tura Aricha Gunuvte. Why does a ox have a long tail? Mishum Dedayer Ba'agmi Ebola Kakushe Beki. Because he lives in the meadow, in the swamp, I guess. And he has to keep knocking away the mosquitoes, Bekia, like gnats or something. So he wags the tail to get them away. Could have made those Australian hats, that with the corks. Those Australian hats that keeps the mosquitoes away. My time makarna the kamtza rechicha. Why is the antenna of, it's either kamtza, Rashi gives two interpretations. It could be a grasshopper. It could be some sort of ant. How come it's soft? These antennas that they have. So Rabbi Yehuda answers, Mishum Dedaira Bechilfi, because they live in the plains, that means amongst the grass. Vikasha, if it would be hard, Nadia, it would break off, Umasavra, and they would go blind, which is true. Some of these antennas have the eyes in the antennas. Dharma Shmuel says, Shmuel said, if you want to make a kamtza, which is either this grasshopper or an ant blind, you remove its antennas. Calls it horns. This is the antennas of a. My time, high timra, the tanagolta, midli la'ela. Why is the eyelid of the hen hanging above the hanging on top of the upper one? That means usually the upper eyelid rests on the lower one, but by it flaps over, the lower one flaps over the upper one. Why does it do that? So he answered the Dayer Adafi. It goes onto the boards, which means the roofs. The Ayel Kitra, and if smoke would go into its eye, Misavra would go blind. So that's like a protection. The lower eyelid, the smoke goes up, and the bird goes up as well. So the smoke is going to go into its eye, so the lower lid goes over the upper lid. Can't really tell from the picture. Now he asks him some Aramaic words. He says dasha. Dasha means a doorway. Why is it called dasha in Aramaic? Derech sham. Because it's an abbreviation of derech sham. You go through there. That's the entrance. Darga. This is a step. Why is it called darga? Derech gag takes you up to the roof. Darga, right? Derech gag. Musculisa. Musculisa is either a spice or a dip. Why is that called musculisa? It says masay tichlada. When is this going to run out? Yes, they would take a long time to finish these spices and the dips. So people say, "Wow, it's still some left," Besa, a house. It says Bava Eseva, come and sit inside. That's Besa. Biksa is a small house. Bei Aksa, it's tight. Aksa is like to squeeze. It's a tight house. Kufta is like a block of wood, a stump, or it says kufisiv. It's bend down and sit. That's what this block of wood is. Livnei or bricks. Livnei vanai. That's going to last for generations. Bricks will last a long time. Hutza is a wicker sort of partition. That's chatzitza. That's all. Its whole use is just to separate. It doesn't have strength, but it's at least it's a separation. Chatzva is a bucket. Shechitzev mayim min anar. It like carves out water from the river. Kuza is a little jug. That's kozeh. Rashi explains this that a person could say, give me a little bit like that, as a gift, because it's a small amount. Shutisa, this is a myrtle branch, a hadas. He says shtusa. Shtusa is like craziness. Why? Because people would dance with myrtle branches, and at weddings, when they would dance, they looked crazy. So this is called shtusa or shutisa. Mashichla is a bath or a tub, some sort of tub. Mashikula it washes everything, I guess, or maybe everyone washes there, or it washes the whole body. What about mashkilta? This is a small tub. Mashikalsa, this is for a kala to wash. So this is more fancy and important people. Asita is the mortar, mortar and pestle. This is the bowl. Why is it called asita? Because it's associated with the word chaserta, which means there's a cavity. It's missing something. So that's the bowl part. Buchna is the pestle, just the banging part. Boiva akena. Come and I'll hit you. That's the pestle. Levusha, this is a outer garment. It's leibusha, takes away embarrassment. Embarrassment, interesting, was Rashi says that people were ashamed of their undergarments because they were torn. And so the outer garment could cover over the torn undergarments. You think it's just the person's clothes. It takes away his embarrassment, but it's really, Rashi says it's taking away what the undergarments look like. Glima was an outer garment, but it was probably more like a cape. So Shanasa by Kagolam, it makes him like without any form. I guess it takes away the arms. You can't see the arms and legs when you wear it. Gulta is a fancy coat. Galei Veisiv, you have to take it off before you sit down. You don't want it to get dirty. Puria is a bed. Shaparim v'ravanala, it's where they procreate. Puria is a bed. Borzinka, an empty pit. Borzenaki, Borzinka. An empty pit is, this pit is clean. It means it has nothing in it. Sudra. Sudra is the hat, the head covering that the sages would wear. So Said Hashem Lireyav. Sudra is associated with the secrets of Hashem to those that fear him. Said Hashem, the secrets. Apadna is a palace. Apischa Dain. It's everyone can come in through this door. Everyone can enter here. Rashi says whether it's for judgment or if it's to serve the king. Apadna is apischa dain. Tanar Rabbanan was taught in a brayso. Shleisha, there are three things. Kolzman shemaskinen, as they get older, meisifin gvura, they get stronger. Be'eluhein, dog, v'nachash v'chazir, a fish, a snake, and a pig. I don't have a commentary on that, but maybe there's commentary in there. Okay, shemen, we're getting a little more halachic now. We said oil. How much oil, carrying oil on Shabbos? How much oil would be considered carrying? A significant amount. To put oil, to smear the oil on a small limb. Amri debei Rabbi Yanai was said in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yanai, Shemen kedei lasach ever katan, shel katan ben yaimai. The small limb probably means a small finger or toe of a 1 day old baby. So it's not just a small limb. It's a small limb of a small person. Okay. And that's the amount that a person will be chayev if he carries it on Shabbos. So shel ben yaimai. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Shemen kedei lasach ever katan v'katan ben yaimai. The Brisa here says that how much oil is carrying to anoint or to smear on a small limb and the katan ben and on a small child. The Gemara says, my love, the fact that it does it like that, it must mean Aver katan the gadol. When it said the first statement, a small limb, that must have been talking about the small limb of an adult. And then it says a katan ben yaimai, that must be referring to Aver gadol shel katan ben yaimai, a large limb of a small child, because it divided it up into two cases. How much oil? A small limb and the small child. That's the amount, which would mean that a small limb of an adult and a large limb of a small child would be an equal amount, and that's the amount of carrying. But it's not what Rabbi Yanai said, that it's the small limb of a small child. Amirlach to be Rabbi Yanai would answer you with that this brisa seems to contradict him. He says, lie, that's not the pshat. Hachi kamar, this is what it means to say. It's coming to tell you, you have to read it like this. To anoint, to smear the oil on a small limb of a small child. It's not and, it's of a small child. Let's say that this opinion actually is getting involved in a machlekes tanaim. In other words, that there are earlier opinions that discuss this, and not everyone's going to hold like Rabbi Yanai. Shemen kedei lasach ever katan, oil. How much oil? Enough to put on a small limb, the katan ben yaimai, and a small child. Div Reb Shimon ben Elazar. That's the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Reb Shimon ben Elazar is a student of Reb Meir. Reb Nosson Naimer. Reb Nosson says, Nosson's a friend of Reb Meir, kedei lasach ever katan, to put on a small limb. Okay. It's a little bit unclear what they mean, but my lab b'hakam, it must mean that this is the machlekes. The Reb Shimon ben Elazar savar Aver katan shel katan. You notice Reb Shimon ben Elazar said twice katan. What he meant to say is that there's two katans here that would make you chayiv, that make a person chayiv. There's the small limb of the small katan, and that's when a person would be chayiv if he carries that. Reb Nosson savar, Reb Nosson says his statement was only one time using the word katan. Kedei lasach ever katan. That means that ever katan the gadol. It's only the small limb of an adult. Oh, ye ever gadol the katan. Or if it's a large limb of a child, but there's only one katan, according to Reb Nosson. Aval ever katan shel katan ben yaimai. But a small limb of a small child, that you're not going to be chayav for. So it comes out that Rabbi Yanai is arguing with Reb Nosson. Yeah, he has a source, he has an opinion that supports him, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, but he's taking sides in a Tanaic dispute. Gemara says, lie. You don't have to say that. You could say the Kuli Alma Aver Katan, the Katan Ben Yaimai, lie. Everyone argues with Rabbi Yanai. He's not taking sides in this dispute. Everyone holds that a small limb of a small child is exempt if someone carries that amount. The less of the Rabbi Yanai. And they won't follow Rabbi Yanai. How are we going to learn what Reb Shimon said? He said, Aver katan katan. What does he say? Aver katan katan ben yaimai. And we wanted to say, he says katan twice. That means it's a small limb of a small child. We said, no. Now we're going to learn it it's either a small limb of an adult or the large limb of a child. A small limb of an adult, the Iver Gadol, the Katan, and a large limb of a child, Ben Yomi, a 1-day-old child, that's equal. That's what Reb Shimon ben Elazar is telling us. You can measure it either one. For Rav Nosson Savar, Rav Nosson holds, Iver Katan, the Gadol, in. The small limb of an adult, yes. Iver Gadol, the Katan, Ben Yomi, but a large limb of a small child, not. He holds that they're not equal. You have to measure it from a small limb of an adult. My Havi Allah. What's the conclusion here? So Tashma, we have another source. It says, the Tanya Reb Shimon ben Elazar Shemek Kedei Lasach Iver Katan Shel Katan Ben Yomi. We learn Reb Shimon ben Elazar the way that Rabbi Yanai would use it. Would say that it's the small limb of a small child. If that's the case, so then our question before, Lema Ketanai, let's say that Rabbi Yanai is mixing into a Machlekes Tanam, that's where we come out. Yes, he is. He's taking sides, and he's going like Reb Shimon ben Elazar against Reb Nosson. Let's leave the Gemara over here.